pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable do. Your horse racing fantasy come true. But no, stable do.
Download the Stable Duel app and play today.
It's the calm before the storm, the week before the big week. Next week, it's Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday. So next week, because the racing starts so early and a lot of focus will be on Breeders' Cup Friday and Saturday, we won't have a Friday show. That means this week, Sniper, it's very important for us to really make some money. We have to pad the bankroll. Right? We want to have a lot of ammo to fire away next week. How you doing this week, my friend?
Hanging in there. It's a good Friday, even though it's not really Good Friday, but it
is a good Friday. It is because this is we got the energy right now. You feel the energy, and it's a fun time to be a fan of horse racing. The Breeders' Cup pre-entries are out. We can already start diving in and taking a look at what the fields may look like for next week. Everything will be finalized on Monday, but for us this weekend, a lot of Keeneland, as the Keeneland is the major focus for the Stable Duel games this weekend. On Friday, today, we have 3 different options for Keeneland Stable Duel games. For some of the smaller players, there's a $5 entry game. Then there's a $40 entry game. There's also a $250 winner-take-all entry game. So you have a bankroll game for the smaller players, one for maybe the middle players, and then one for the bigger players who want to dive into the bigger games. Then tomorrow, there's the Full Adventure Challenge at Keeneland. Full Adventure offers racing fans the opportunity to experience raising a thoroughbred racehorse. Regular communication, photos, videos. Full Adventure members follow a horse from the day they were born into the sales ring, and then eventually they get to cheer them on at the racetrack. The Full Adventure Challenge at Keeneland winner will receive a 1-year membership to one of their broodmares. So pretty cool. You get to also get this additional prize if you play and do one of the Saturday games over at Keeneland. So Stable Duel, always thinking outside the box, always trying to get creative and have different cool promotions and different partners that they team up with for their contests. So big weekend at Keeneland this weekend, big weekend at Keeneland next weekend. That's where our focus will be in these best bets that we're giving out and for these Stable Duel contests. So Sniper, let's start today. Let's talk a little Keeneland. What are you looking at for Keeneland today, my friend?
We're in the 7th, 8th, and 10th.
So lots of late on the card. Let's start out in race number 6 today, because that's where I'm going to go for my first play. And when you're looking for past performances, when you're looking to try to get a little more research done, to get a little extra analysis, to get the best information, you want to head to drf.com for those daily racing form past performances. That's where we're looking right now. We're looking at the formulator version. Those are my personal favorite because you can click once and take a look at a race replay. You can click once, take a look at a chart. You can look at the trainer information. You can look at anything that you need with just 1 or 2 clicks. So race number 6, excuse me. I thought there was a pretty good amount of speed in here on paper, just kind of looking through. You have the 2 Scarlet Stripe, who flashed some speed sprinting last time out. You have Parents Pride, who's also been on the lead in back-to-back races. I figured she would want to be forwardly placed. Sunny River has been a runner-up in 5 consecutive races, and she is a filly who just loves to finish second. She has burned money. She crossed the wire first one time, but was DQ'd there. She just felt like a really nice horse to take a shot against, and that's why I went to this race. You also have a couple first-time starters here, and 6.5 is kind of a tricky distance for first-time starters to debut. By process of elimination, I landed on the 8 Fiddle, who I just think is a little bit too high of a price. Fiddle coming off of 2 pretty nice efforts. And she debuted over at Ellis, going 5.5 on the turf. And she doesn't have to sit so far back like she was in her last start. In fact, on September the 14th at Kentucky, she was in tight and in a little bit of a traffic early on. She had to grab a hold and she had to settle towards the back. She was 9th of 10. So she's in between horses. She's about 9 lengths off. She tips to the outside, makes a really big, wide move. Honestly, she was about in the 7 path coming down the lane, and she gets a little bit of pace to run at in here. With one click, we can just take a look at her dam, and then we can see some of the siblings that she has. Well, Pure was a winner on the dirt. We also have Jacob Rocks, who was a winner on the dirt. So 2 siblings who are dirt winners. I don't think the surface should be any issue for her. I think she could get the trip. And the fact that she was a runner-up in that maiden special weight at Kentucky shows me she should probably fit at the class level here. She checks a lot of the boxes that I'm looking for in this race. And for Stable Duel at 12-1, she'll only cost me $750. I think she's a nice play and a fun like pick 5 horse if you're looking for a late horse to use in some of the exotics.
Yeah, this nice pick there. I particularly like those last 2 workouts.
Perked up a little bit, right?
Yeah, yep,
Just
absolutely.
Start to see a horse starting to trend in the right direction. That is Fiddle, the number 8 in race number 6. So right next door, my man, is the Myrtlewood, and I think that's where you're going to head for your first play.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to throw one downfield here in the Myrtlewood, and I ended up on number 4, 2-minute drill, who's 15-1 on the morning line, which I thought was maybe a little bit high. I guess, they're really going to key in on this Brad Cox horse, the favorite, Key of Life. But I'm not, overly enthusiastic about that horse. I just don't think that the competition that she ran against was all that great in her 2 wins that she has. That being said, it's not like she didn't run well in either of those races. Definitely did the job, won by 6 last time. So definitely the horse to beat. But there seems to be some speed in here. The 8, Flamand, has some speed. I think one of the 2 outside runners, particularly the very outside runner, is probably going to try to go for the lead. Key of Life has some speed. The inside horse, Lady Rattler, has some speed. Baby Got Backspin, the 3, has some speed. So you get the gist of it here. We got the pace should be pretty lively, and the 4 kind of fits in a spot because last time showed the ability to rate a little bit. And I think that's key in this race because having that experience, having a win, kind of doing something that they're probably going to have to do again, gives this horse a little bit of an edge. And 15-1, it's kind of hard to say no.
We were looking at this race the exact same way, and there were a couple others that might be able to get the trip. The one that I looked at was actually a horse that I played last time. I think I gave out on here also, Take Charge Brianna. And honestly, I think it's pretty easy for us with her to just look and say, okay, let's just toss the Alcibiades.
Yeah.
She's in a little tough in that race. Wonder Wheel basically went wire to wire, and Take Charge Brianna just never got involved. She had a wide draw that day. So if you put a line right through that and you just look at her sprint races, her win at Saratoga on September 4th was visually awesome. She had a ton of trouble. She came from out of it to win. 6 furlongs just might be a tad short for her. But the way we're seeing this race shape up, I think she should really get a trip and she should come running. So if I'm playing like a late pick 4, I definitely want your horse on my ticket, 2-minute drill. I definitely want the 7, Take Charge Brianna. And I wouldn't mind the 2 either, just for the same reasons that we're talking about. We know she can pass horses, which is a positive in here. And in her debut, she won at 5 furlongs coming from way out of it, which you just don't see very often. And then she came back in the Sorrento. She was a little bit flat, but she was up a little bit closer in that race. I think if they just sort of take her back and try to make one late run, wouldn't be shocked to see her, be competitive in here, and like to see that Joel jumps aboard for Dougie Fresh. So yeah, we're looking for the off the pace runners in this one, right? In the 7th race, horses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yep. That's what it looks like. I mean, not close, but be close enough. That's why I kind of lean toward the 4 because
who can sit maybe
going to be closer and
get in
first
front,
run and try to last. This isn't a really great race by any means, but I think because of the inexperience of a lot of the runners, getting first run might be key.
Let's continue along on the Keeneland card for Friday. I will just head right next door to
I see.
race number 8, which is the grade 3 Valley View. And they'll be going a mile and a 16th on the turf course in here.
Could we have landed on the same horse?
Could
Is
we
this
have landed
possible?
on the
Is it
same
possible?
one? The number 6, Majestic Glory. This is where I
That was
go.
my second pick, actually.
Okay.
That was my second choice.
And she comes out of a race that was really live already. You know, we saw Gino Romantica come back and win the QE2 just 2 weeks ago. So she was in the Petables where she finished 4th. Gino Romantica was 2nd. We've already seen the race come back live. And when you dive into the race in particular, I thought Majestic Glory ran pretty well for a horse who was making their second or who was making their first start in the US. Majestic Glory was taken towards the back, was inside about 8th of 9, and was 6 lengths off, and then just kept to the inside, started to move. But the winner of the race that day was a wire-to-wire winner. There just was no pace to run at. So I think it's a really good spot for Majestic Glory. Second start now in North America, expecting her to take a big step forward in here. I think the 6 is very live in this spot. So yeah, for me, it was about I thought about 2 in here, Barry. I thought about the 6, and I also thought about the 4, my Philly
Yeah,
Twirl.
see, you know what? I took a long look at the
Me,
4, but
you
I
know,
think
she's
that horse is just a
maybe,
little bit too
I know,
class challenged
I agree.
in
She's
this
like a
race.
slight cut below, but if you're building a stable dual lineup and you need like a less expensive, see what I did there? A less expensive horse
Ah,
to add to your ticket. This is one that's 20-1. And if you can just throw out that Edgewood at that funky turf course at Churchill that some horses haven't liked. I mean, we haven't even seen that turf course open back up. All of the other races are pretty good, and she even
mhm.
proved that she could keep up with Stakes Company at Gulfstream in April. But I do agree with you. I felt the exact same way. Like, she's really honest. This just might be a tad too much for her to deal with. Who are you looking at in here?
I actually ended up on the 8 Bubble Rock.
Yeah,
Uh,
I took a long look at this one also.
it's just I didn't really see too much speed in this race. And Bubble Rock could be a real big beneficiary of that kind of pace scenario where they're not going too fast up front because I really don't think Bubble Rock wants to lead, but I don't think they want to be too far away from the pace. And that might serve well, especially second time off the layoff. Brad Cox does really well with these kind of runners. 232 horses at 27%. That's pretty good, and it's a large enough sample size to know that this is what he's good at doing. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's some races that this horse has to go back to that would easily win or be very, very, very competitive in this race. And at 15-1, I think this horse is going to get bet a little bit. Um, it's just, I just think this is a really good opportunity. This race is a really good opportunity to make money. I mean, I can't trust a horse like Dolce Zell who
No,
barely wins when she wins and really hasn't been, has run well every time, but just doesn't feel like that horse should be, you know, overwhelmingly better than this field and should win easily because the horse never wins easy. So that being said, there's a lot going on here. There's not much speed. So I'm gonna take a shot with Bubble Rock.
Bubble Rock, big prices available in this 8th race at Keeneland on Friday, a little later on today. Continuing on through the Friday Keeneland card, we're up to race number
10.
8. Oh, race number 10. Yeah, because the 9th race, I thought I was going to take a quick look. It was a little, if you're trying to beat the favorite in here, it's not normally as big of a price as we're looking at, but still a possible alternative to the favorite. I think Powder River is a horse who's going to take a lot of money. I mean, Microcap beat Powder River a couple starts back and should just offer you better value. Microcap may have needed the race last time out, kind of loomed up and then hung, and now is going
Yep.
to cut back to a mile and a 16th, and they may have just a little bit more punch. I think she's she's interesting. If you're looking at trying to beat the favorite, look at some of the horses that she's lost to in her running lines: Clairiere, Juju's Map, and Army Wife. Like, those are some
Not
nice
bad.
graded stakes type horses.
Yeah, best in the country.
Micro Cap, who's only 9-2, not a massive price, but if you don't want to go 2-1 and spend up, this might be a nice alternative there. But we got to get to the bailout. I've got one in the 10th and final. Barry's got one in
Are we
the final.
Are we gonna land on the same horse?
Maybe we'll land on the same one. We got to get there one of these times. Tell us who you're going to go to in race number 10.
I ended up on number 5.
Oh, there we go. Out the door together. Very rarely do we get a Wesley Ward horse that seems playable like this, right?
Yeah, because usually
At the
they're
price.
overbet and crushed, and you
Yep.
want no part of them.
Yep.
This one actually has, the form doesn't look all that great on paper, which I think is partly contributes to the 10-1 morning line. But this horse runs just as well as anybody in this field, if not better. There's a lot of speed in here. A horse I took a really long look at that I almost selected was the 7, Francatelli.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that horse is probably going to get hooked.
Yeah,
I would lone speed situation. I think that horse would be tough, but there's enough speed in here.
Even right next door, you have Hollis, who can press him a little bit, right? And just keep him very honest, and you have
4
some
left,
speed. Yeah,
proven strategies. They're going to go, and that's what's really going to open it up for Altador, who definitely doesn't need to lead. Probably going to sit in the perfect spot. Gets the rider upgrade to Joel, which really is the key for me, because he can ride this distance just as well as anybody in the world. So I just think this one falls into a great trip and should get it done.
totally agree with you. This is another guy where he's only raced 9 times in his career. He's pretty lightly raced, being at the end of his 4-year-old season at this point. And when you go race by race, it all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I played him in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf in 2020. He was only 9-1. He ran a great race that day. He finished 3rd behind Finder at Will and Battleground. He came out of that race and he went and he took a shot on the dirt in the Springboard Mile at Remington Park. He was actually favored in that race. And then he just didn't really fire on the dirt. He showed a little bit of speed, and it was his first time going long on the dirt. He backed up. He was off for a few months. They went to the synthetic. He actually won a stakes race at Turfway. Then he wins a stakes race at Woodbine. And then he's off for over a year. He has some physical issue. It looks like he's just getting rounding back into form now, after some of those layoff lines. Because think about it. He had a race in December of 2020, 3 months off. Then a race in March, then another couple months off. And then he had a race. And then he had 13 months off just about. And now I think he's got his legs back under him again. Plus, his last 3 races have all been a little bit longer. Now you get the cut back to 5.5. Yeah, he should be in a perfect spot here. Just a perfect spot in this race. Let's do it. Out the door. I know Matt's not here this morning, but I feel like Matt would have been on out the door with us. He would have been here with our guy, Law Professor, and the Law Professor Lock of the Week. He's entered in.
Our guy Dancing Buck is turned into a monster.
Your guy Dancing Buck, who's just sprouted wings and has become incredible. It's so fun to watch him. And you know what? You can do that with turf sprinters more so than in any other division, right? You usually won't see a horse that can compete maybe in the classic, if that gets good like that. We sort of know who the classic horses are all year, but in a turf sprint, you can have a horse like that get really good, just sort of figure out, hey, going long was a little too long for me. Maybe the dirt wasn't where I wanted to be, but your guy, Dancing Buck, he'll be showing his face in the Breeders' Cup next weekend, as will Law Professor. Hopefully, we led you to a few winners for Friday today. Just to remind you one more time for today, Keeneland has a $5 entry game. So a nice smaller game if you only have a few bucks left in your account. There's a $40 bigger game, and then there's a $250 winner-take-all entry. And Barry and I set you up with a lot of nice prices on the back end of the card. and had a little blip there for a second. It looked like a connection issue, but we're absolutely fine now and ready to rock and roll. So let's turn the page to Saturday. The major focus this weekend is Keeneland. It seems like that's where they wanted a lot of the contest and a lot of the focus. I think because Saturday they're going to have that big full adventure challenge. So make sure to get involved there as we shift over from Friday to Saturday. So which races are you looking at for Keeneland for Saturday, my man? Oh, I think you're muted still, Sniper.
3 and 8. We're in 3 and 8.
Races 3 and 8. Cool. I'll be in races 4. 4 and 8. So perfect. We'll be able to talk 3, 4, and 8. Get folks set up for a couple races on Saturday. So lead the way. Tell us who we're looking at in race number 3 as I get those DRF past performances pulled up.
Sure. Yeah, this is a interesting $100,000 claiming race.
Incredible, right? When you see that money that's up for grabs in these races, it just doesn't look right when you look like you double take at it sometimes, like $100,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like I remember growing up, $100,000 was a stake race no matter what.
Big graded stake.
Nothing was even close to that.
No.
You get a $50,000 allowance race maybe. But yeah, the price, the purses have just skyrocketed, especially in Kentucky. But this race is, I just think the favorites here are very, very vulnerable. They're going a mile on the 16th on the main track. The horse is morning line favorite of Votant, who I've selected on this show a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've fallen out of favor with.
Yep.
I just think that this horse has just lost form somewhere along the way, and
if she wins this race,
right?
It's going to be a way shorter of a price than she should because everybody sees those graded stakes that she was in.
Right, and that's what I think people are banking on, that the slight drop in class will be the trick, but I just don't think so. I think there's a lot of speed in here for her to contend with the outside, starting with the horse outside of her, Lady Valentine. That horse has a lot of speed here. Mariah's Princess has some speed. Jungle Juice is going to be forced to go, even though she's got speed. So I don't think it's just a gimme that Envoûtante will have her way, or even a comfortable trip. She's just not that kind of horse. I ended up on number 2, Will Secret. I think this horse has run well previously in the past, especially last year. You look at, there's a couple of stake races that she won at Oaklawn that were really good, that could win this race here on Saturday.
She's
kind of going the opposite direction of Envoûtante.
Well, she was getting good last year, and then you can sort of see what happens. She just starts running into the best 3-year-olds, right? Because she's winning and they want to keep giving her like tests, so they step her up. She actually beats Pauline's Pearl last year, and Pauline's Pearl ended up becoming really, really nice. If you click and take a look at Pauline's Pearl's form, I believe she's a millionaire now. She's up to 1.6 million and a grade 1 winner. She won the La Troyenne. Now, after that victory, Will Secret just runs into Malathot a couple times. Soothsay. When Soothsay won that Indiana Oaks, it was so awesome. She won that race visually, really impressive. Then Malathot, Clairiere again, and then Clairiere. I mean, it's very easy to dismiss these races. Then her Cotillion's in September. So she's off from September to June. She shows back up in June, and she probably needs a race or two, right, to get going again. So she races in June. Then in July, the race is on an off track. She actually runs pretty well there, finishing 3rd behind Next Out winning Little Tootsie. She comes back on September 16th. Again, takes another little step forward. she could be ready for a big one. I like this play a lot, Sniper.
Yeah.
I think this is a
Well,
really nice use.
another key is the rider switch to Luis Saez, which,
A
I
little more
think they
aggressive.
right. Yeah, I think they want to be a little bit closer to the pace, and not be so far back, which is perfect. I think if Louis can get in the right
the 7 furlong race, right?
right.
So you figure there'll be a little bit more speed coming out of that sprint race last time out. We'll take one more look at Will's Secret here. Will's Secret 12-1 on the morning line, so will only cost you $750 in your stable dual lineup. I really like this one for the Sniper there in race number 3 on Saturday over at Keeneland. Let's continue along. I'm right next door in race number 4 as we dive into the daily racing form past performances. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us today on this Friday, and good luck in the next week as we lead into the Breeders' Cup, a big, big week for horse racing fans and bettors. 4th race, I'm looking at Kentucky. It's Kentucky that we're talking about. My Kentucky girl, the number 6 in here. And this one's kind of simple. Sniper. I mean, we just look at what she did in the first 2 starts of her career sprinting on the dirt. She was a winner first time out of the box on April the 2nd. She beat a next out winner in that race. Winning first time out, never easy to do. She beats Lady T. Lady T comes out of that, and Lady T runs in a bunch of stakes races. She's actually great at stakes placed. We take a look at the next start for my Kentucky girl on June the 5th. Runs into a horse named Midnight Memories. Midnight Memories is now a multiple graded stakes winner. So now those races look a little bit better when you look back at them. And those were her 2 dirt races sprinting. They were both good. In her 3rd start, they take a shot on the turf going long. And honestly, she was favored in that race. She had legitimate trouble. She actually had trouble in her last 2 starts. So while it sort of looks like she doesn't like the grass, I'm actually not even convinced that she doesn't like the grass. She may have just been unlucky and had legitimate trouble in both of those races. But they said, you know what? Let's just go back to what worked for us. Sprinting on the dirt. And hey, we know she's got some ability. Like, let's throw her in this race at Keeneland where they're going to run for $110,000 for an allowance race. Like we were saying, this isn't like a stakes race. It's a strong allowance race here, but she gets to come over here and run for $110,000 purse. And I think it's a nice spot for her. Jonathan Wong is an excellent trainer. We see him out here in Southern California. He's done great work through the years up in Northern California at Golden Gate and all the NoCal racetracks there. My Kentucky girl heads to Keeneland in a spot for some big money. And if she runs back to those 2 races, those first 2, she's right there with this group. My Kentucky girl, she's 6-1 on the morning line. She'll only cost you $5,000 in your stable dual lineup, and I think she's a nice play for Saturday.
This race gave me fits, so I'm glad you chose one here. So give me an idea who to play.
I thought for a second, I was like, this is Gina, right? It's not Gino. I'm looking at her. I was like, Gino. No, Gina. It's like, it's kind of speaking to me, but I ended up going to my Kentucky girl there in race number 4. So 6-1. And remember, you can be playing on Saturday for the Full Adventure Challenge at Keeneland, a $50 entry that'll give you that year membership to Full Adventure, where you'll be able to follow along with one of the broodmares. Lulu's partner, a half-sister to Disco partner, is in foal to Mr. Monomoy, and they also have Magic Happens, who's also in foal to Mr. Monomoy, and their female family has Drina the Dam of the 2000 Breeders' Cup Distaff winner, Spain. Cool stuff. Check out more at StableDuel.com about the games on Saturday and that Full Adventure Challenge. So I've got looks in races 5 and 8.
And I have 8.
Okay, in the 5th race, I just had to mention this one again because normally we keep it at about 5-1 and up, but this one was right below, and I had to because it's one of the best ways to get a little waking up on this Friday morning.
They'll sing it.
Woo! Got to get back to our guy, Rarefied Flair, the jet flying, wheeling and dealing, kiss stealing. Woo!
Rolex wearing.
Son of a gun, Rolex wearing, kiss everyone. Ric Flair, one of the all-time greats, if not the GOAT. Rarefied Flair, we actually played on August the 20th at Saratoga.
Remember.
When he won, because he was coming off that trouble trip on July the 30th. And again, he's just another one where you look at all of his turf races, troubled on July 30th, winner on August the 20th, comes back on September the 6th. Well, he's in a stakes race, and he actually runs pretty well, finishing second that day. Then on October the 4th, last time out, we can pull the race up here because he just really has a brutal trip. He's the number 5.
Yeah, that was a rough trip.
Yeah, it was not fun. As you watch his race last time out, he's the 5 in this race, and he gets bumped at the start a bit, and then all of a sudden he kind of gets squeezed out of a spot, and he couldn't get where he wanted. You can see the 4 and the 6 come together, and they kind of, it's deceiving, right? It's not like an overwhelming trouble, but now all of a sudden, because he got pinched out of that spot, now he's in a little bit of traffic going into the first turn, so he has to squeeze out of another spot. And instead of sitting right up there, like in the second or third spot where the 4 and the 6 are, look at where the 5 is now.
Way back, yeah.
The difference between just where he wanted to be and where he is. And that's what's so interesting about watching replays and why I love doing it like that, because that's not something you would have really seen in the running line, because it wasn't like a bunch of trouble, but he definitely wanted to be closer. And even right now, he's trying to go. He wants to move up the inside. He wants to go. He's traveling well, but he just doesn't have any room, and he's going to run into a wall of horses again. He's just blocked, nowhere on the inside, can't angle to the outside because there's no room, and he continues to hold that form. He's all the way up into contention, and then, horses loom around the outside of him and block him in even more. Rarefied Flair in a good spot, consistent. Right here, he's in that third flight. He's just looking for some room. Where does he go? Can I get to the outside? No, because there's horses in front of me. Now he's going to try to shift back around. I mean, he just totally blocked. Finally, right about here, he gets a little bit of a seam, and he stretches his legs, and, he's in a battle for the minor awards. I think you're going to get a better effort from Rarefied Flair, because he'll actually get to run if he can get some clear sailing in here. The number 12, Rarefied Flair. Woo! Anytime we can.
That reminds me, that trip reminds me of a line from the movie The Other Guys with Will Ferrell
with Wahlberg and Ferrell.
He's like, I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. That's exactly what Rarefied Flair was saying the whole race.
Exactly. That's good. I like that one that you pointed that out. Okay, so we both have one more. Let's hit the 8th race. Let's see if we land on the same one again today in race number 8. Now, this will actually be for tomorrow, and this will be Keeneland Saturday, the Grade 3 Bryan Station Stakes. Who are you looking at here?
Well, this race kind of, I don't know how to exactly describe it, but there's a lot of horses in here that are kind of okay, and they're getting back with 3-year-olds, especially, namely Classic Causeway, who's a horse that, honestly, and this is probably not the most popular opinion in the world, I think the horse got lucky in the Belmont Derby. Just got absolutely dismissed. Nobody respected the horse, and it got away from him.
Nobody bet him that day. They just sort of thought he was going to come back to the field, and I agree with you. I don't know. I haven't felt like he's really improved all that much from earlier on in the year, where he might have been just a little bit ahead of a lot of horses, maybe at 2 and early and at 3 and faster. I don't know if he's continued to really improve. If he gets the right circumstance, if he's in a race where there's no other speed.
Honestly, I would love to see them cut this horse back.
Yeah, like down the hill, maybe.
Yes.
Like something like that would be awesome. If he had an opportunity to, right?
He's the quintessential, like, Bobby's Kitten type.
Yep.
Horse that would appreciate going down the hill and even going fast, like,
because they can just let him loose.
Right. You
Yeah.
can just let him roll the
And go
whole
as fast
time.
as he wants, as far as he can. He can, and like just kind of keep him to the outside so he wouldn't get in trouble. I would love to see that with him.
Maybe somebody's listening.
Yeah,
They'll
who
try it
knows?
out.
I was gonna say.
But this race is wide open in my opinion. There's no standouts here. I think this is a really, really good betting race all the way around because there's question marks with Witt as well. Coming off the layoff. He's okay. I don't think the horse is bad by any means, but not so much better than everybody else that
I mean, look,
merits.
he Ready to Perform beat him, and Ready to Perform is a better price than him.
Right.
Like, I'd
So I
prefer Ready to Perform over him if I was picking.
I think most people will. I think they're going to be a lot closer in the betting than
I agree.
than the morning line. But I ended up on the 10, Fuerteventura.
Nice.
This horse ran a real bang up race at Kentucky Downs, and I don't really think that this horse is suited for that track, even though he ran really, really well behind Play Action Pass, who draws outside, which is key here because that horse needs a trip and needs a really good trip stalking. And I don't know if from the 12 spot that horse is going to get what he needs as far as a trip, and it kind of puts Fuerteventura in a good spot, kind of sitting behind the leaders. I really like to see this horse sitting behind Classic Causeway because I don't think Classic Causeway is going to go away. I just don't think Classic Causeway can win. But I think the horse will be around at the finish somewhere, but I just don't think on top. And that basically led me to Fuerteventura at 15-1. It was hard to pass up. This horse really hasn't run a bad race. The only one that you could say is a quote unquote bad race was the Marine back in July, where he finished 6th, but didn't get an ideal trip. And I'm not really sure, synthetic is really what that horse wants
Is
to
up at
do.
Woodbine, you're off for a few
Right.
months after. There was a few reasons why you could put a
Yeah,
line
you
right
can
through
kind
it.
of dismiss that, but every time just kind of fires pretty good, and I don't think this race will be any exception.
Johnny V takes the call. After Fuerteventura wins, Barry and I are going to head to Fuerteventura, which is that place in Spain where they say they got someone like the white beaches. It's supposed to be one of like the most gorgeous beaches in the world. So we'll head on out there with all the stacks and
I'm down.
stacks and
Let's
stacks that
go.
we've got. Fuerteventura. I have one other for you to look at in this same race, Fuerteventura very live. I mentioned Ready to Perform. Wouldn't talk anyone off of wanting to use that one in exotics with some versatility. But let's look at the outside. The horse who actually outfinished Fuerteventura last time out, Play Action Pass, is just in really nice form too. This is a horse who hasn't done a whole lot wrong recently. Like, you go back to last year even. His races are all pretty good. He just runs into horses in a couple times that are a little bit better than him. Like Tis the Bomb, who is really sharp then, he runs into. And then this year, he begins the year in April on the turf. He finishes 3rd, comes back in his next start and he wins. Then they throw him into Stakes Company. He's at Churchill Downs. He finishes 4th in a $200,000 stakes, goes over to Ellis and gets a nice confidence building win. And then they send him over to Kentucky and he gets a win against Tougher there in that stakes race. And what I like is he's pretty versatile. If you like, he's been on the lead in his last couple, but he's by no means a need the lead type horse. He can absolutely sit. He can absolutely pass horses. I love Lascano on turf horses. I think he does a fantastic job aboard those. Play Action Pass. What was you had a horse that was almost this exact same name, right? On Friday, what was your I was like, what is that horse that you gave out earlier? I was like, are they the same exact name of horse? We definitely got the football horses going over the next couple days. So Play Action Pass for me. Yeah, we're at football season. We're in football mind. Play
every
action.
Sport now. We're all sports all the time. Right
this
now.
Is, I was gonna say, last week was that equinox. Last week on Thursday, it was a sports equinox day. There were professional sports on Thursday night. There was a Thursday night football game. There was hockey. There was NBA. and there were baseball playoffs all on the same night.
All four
major sports.
And there's MLS right now too.
There's MLS going, and on that night there was also a college football game. So it is just pick your poison right now. If you're a sports fan in the week leading up to the Breeders' Cup, options aplenty. We had a little quicker edition of the show this week because we were really focusing just on Keeneland, with those being the major contests. And since it was just me and Barry today with Matt out, good luck to Matt winning his pumpkin carving contest today. I'm a big Halloween guy, so I got to ask you before we get out of here. For me, I love Halloween time. I like the holidays, Halloween, and I like Christmas quite a bit. 4th of July, I'm a big fan of too. But with Halloween and Christmas, I love the weeks leading up because then you can watch all the movies, right? You can get into the mode. So for me as a kid, I love scary movies. And the one that got me, I want to know the one that got you, either scared you or that you go to. For me, it was the original It, the original Pennywise, because that was one they used to show on TV. You know, they used to do when we were younger, they'd always do like the made for TV movies, or they'd cut up the movies into like 3 or 4 parts. And so every year in like the week before Halloween, it would play on TV. And I'd watch it with my mom and dad, and I would be so scared. And I remember just the one of the first scene. I actually watched it a couple nights ago, and I still get the goosebumps. I love getting a good scare. It just makes you feel alive, you know, like it really does. And
like my daughter.
Yeah, the scene
she
when
likes to scare herself.
I know, I love it too.
She watches YouTube and watches these scary things, and then comes out and hangs out with me like,
because she's scared.
I want to go back in my room.
I don't want to be alone now, Dad. I like the scare, but now you got to protect me, Dad. And Georgie, he sees that, because I thought the Pennywise was the one that terrified me, because what he can do, he can become whatever you're afraid of.
Yeah.
So I thought that was the most terrifying. Like, whatever you're scared of, damn, he's like going to be that horse that I needed last week, the bad beat. He's like a replay of that race I needed. That's what it would be for you and me. But yeah, Pennywise, that one always gets me. That one is my go-to. What was the one for you, one that you remember as a kid that scared you?
It wasn't really, I was scared, but I did like the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yes.
But one that sticks out that really isn't technically a Halloween movie is Monster Squad. I guess I'm showing my age.
That's a fun one.
That was like my favorite movie when I was a kid. We used to always watch it at Halloween time. So.
Oh, hell yeah. Well, I hope everyone has a blast and has a safe time this weekend. Halloween's on Monday, and Halloween is actually when the Breeders' Cup entries will come out. So we'll know what everything looks like finalized on Monday. You can spend the weekend diving into the pre-entries. Barry and Matt are both going to join me next week on my podcast on That's What G Said to handicap a couple Breeders' Cup races. So we'll have the live stream crew back together. Even though we won't be here for the live stream next week, you'll still be able to hear some of our thoughts and analysis on a couple Breeders' Cup races. So my man, it's always such a pleasure talking with you every Friday. I love these Friday mornings. It gets my weekend started. I get a good energy. I talk with my boys. I'm ready to rock and roll for the weekend. Hope you have a great one. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging out with us. All of you have an awesome week. If you need any help with anything, if you have any questions leading into the Breeders' Cup about a particular horse, anything at all, shoot me a message. I'd love to help you out, and I look forward to talking. We're going to have conversations on Tuesday and Wednesday with 15 different people and set them all up for you for a lot of fun stuff next week. One of those people won't be Joey Cleveland, but Joey Cleveland, you're going to hear right now, Joey Cleveland saying hello and saying goodbye with This Weekend in Stable Duel.
Better, you want to spread your pony knowledge wide. Oh, better, I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool, stable too. Your horse racing fantasy comes